Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independent City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, September 12th, 2017, 6:30 in the evening, and it's fall. Good to see everybody here today. Let the record show that everybody is here. Let the council, you have minutes in your packet from the 29th of August. Are they okay with everybody? Well, I was assuming that.
I move to approve both sets of minutes as presented in the packet.
Second. I have a motion, second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. We have several people to speak this evening, and I'd like to have Jennifer Kubista, excuse me. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mayor McCardle, so is Jennifer Kubista. I'm the new superintendent here in the Central School District. And I just wanted to come and introduce myself, tell you that I'm truly honored to be here as a superintendent. And the search agent used the words to describe Central as this gem of a school district, which I can say so far it truly is. I've worked in Tacoma for the past 14 years, focused on the development of the whole child, where students are academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. You'll hear me say it takes a village to raise a child, because it does. But we also need to have whole children to build sustainable schools and communities. Whole children can read, write, do math, and do science. Whole children also know how to build relationships, self-manage themselves, are socially aware, and make responsible decisions. Through this process over the past 6 years in Tacoma, I've watched as these purposes and clear expectations build trust and communication amongst student to student, staff to staff, and student to staff, which led to extensive positive outcomes for all. So many of the reasons of why I applied to the Central School District is because Central already has begun to build and have some of these positive cultures focused on the whole child within the school district. I've seen so many of these great connections already through my transition in the spring and through the summer, and then obviously last week was our first four full days of school, and we are now into our first full week of school, and it has just been a fantastic start. I couldn't have asked for a better start as a brand new superintendent. I've had the opportunity to meet and talk with City Councilwoman Marilyn Morton, City Manager David Klein, who both sat on my interview committee, so I thank you both for the opportunity to be here. I truly mean that. I've also had the opportunity to meet with Economic Developer Director Sean Irvine, Chief Mason, and then obviously Mayor McCardle and I had a brief introduction at a football game a couple Fridays ago, which was great, and I know we'll continue to build that relationship. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself. Thank you for your time this evening, and I'm truly honored to be here to serve as a superintendent of Central School District, and I look forward to working with the Independence community. So thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of our council and our city, welcome to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Matthew Lynn.
Good evening, all. I'll keep this very brief. It's been a long, I guess we're at the end of a long road. But I just wanted to leave you with sort of the best I can do right now is $100,000 that we could pay on September 20th of this month, seeking a 1-year extension, and the balance to be paid off by following September 20th of 2018. I did work with the staff, and I think we made a little bit of headway, but what I received back, it was not acceptable to my lender and my attorney that I'm working with. It didn't work. It was too short of a period of time. So that's where I'm at, $100,000. That's over half of what I owe you. Within this next year, it gives us plenty of opportunity to get a loan to pay that off. And this would make this coming year would be year number 8. But it's been I think a success, notwithstanding some of the personal issues, and I apologize for any of that stress, but it's a very important project to me and my family So I leave you with that, and I humbly ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Did you have any documents you need to drop off with us, Matthew?
I have two documents that I could potentially leave with you. I mean, the documents as prepared, they're a little bit
No, they
off.
didn't fit.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make it be clear. Thank you. Harry Plato, good evening. Good evening and welcome to council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and people of the council. I'm back with you talking about water rates and sewer rates. It's been a year since we have received an accounting of the monies that come in for water, sewer, drain, and storm drains. And I think it would be appropriate for another listing to be provided to the people who pay the bill for water and sewer. And it probably wouldn't be too difficult because the groundwork has already been laid for that. And I think it's time, once a year, for this accounting to be available to the general public is probably not too much to ask. And the one last year was quite detailed, and I'd like to have another one. You can kind of compare what's going on. Any objection of the council to having that done?
I think we already do. I think staff, we already do that. Is that?
We haven't done that.
This is a copy of the council from the last year.
Okay.
Is this the sort of information that would be on the new portal?
We have no problem updating that.
Okay. So far, so we'll get it to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's good. I have a question on the water acquisition rights. I'm a novice in this area, and it's really mind-boggling to me that we have to pay, the state has to, we have to pay to somebody $800,000 for water rights. Can somebody tell me where that requirement comes from and where that money is, who's it paid to, and why do we have to do that?
You folks want to take a shot?
It's a very lengthy conversation. I would suggest that if you have time to come by during the day, we'd be happy to spend some time with you and go through it, but it's more than just a 2-minute response.
Is that okay?
So if I come and talk to you, you can provide me a complete breakdown of why and what and so forth.
I can explain to you all the concepts of why we do what we did, and I can talk to you about water rights and acquisition and the like. But it's a very complicated process and probably needed.
We had a full council meeting on
Several.
that, several council meetings on that. So I just want you to know that it has been discussed here, and I'm sure we can get that to you.
And the council was presented with a write-up on that too, a staff report.
Yes.
That could be something that would be shareable as well.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
You can provide that?
Yeah.
I think that would.
We'll help you out.
That's mind-boggling to me, being a novice in that area. Did we pay for water rights for the initial, how much did we pay the city had to pay for the initial amount of water rights that we had?
I don't know. I wasn't here in 1951.
And I have another question about systems development charges. Back in 20 years ago, the SDCs were about $8,000 for building a house like in Air Park or anywhere else in the city. And I see it's doubled now. And I understand that the funds are quote-unquote restricted. Is there any information available about how many dollars, how much money was collected in the systems development charges that were paid to the city in the last 20 years and what that money went to?
I'm sure that yes, there are, we know what was paid, where it went, and there's rules on what it can do. And so I'm sure our financial folks can help you out. I don't know how many years back and stuff like that, but I know
We have audit reports from every single year going back. Those are all available, and that information is all in those documents.
I understand it's quote-unquote restricted funds, but I wonder what it's restricted to pay for. And I bring up the question now, if we had all that money come in all those years and all of a sudden we need $6 million for another water treatment plant, was not that taken into consideration early on when the population doubled from what, 3,700, 3,800 to 20 years to what it is, 8,000
Yeah, so
plus?
all those things are figured in. I'm going to suggest that you get a chance to sit down with our finance folks, and they can go over in detail and really give a detailed explanation.
It's not just for me, but I think all the voters should know that. I don't know if they're interested or not, but I think they should if they're not.
Thank you.
I got one question that's been bugging me ever since I saw this edifice when I came back from being down south one time. What did this building cost?
I'll have the finance people tell you what that is when you get together with them, because I don't know what that's off the top of my
I'd
head.
like to know right.
I don't,
It's not a little figure, and I can't believe that somebody can't tell me right now what this building cost.
I don't know the number off that.
Approximately 12 million.
$12 million.
Approximately.
Sounds to me like this Taj Mahal could have been half the size because we only use half of it. And the other half could be used to pay for the water treatment plant that we need. Very, very poor management.
Thank you, Harry. I appreciate you taking the time to come in with us this evening. I'm going to move on to other reports and presentations. I don't have anything I need to add at this particular point, so I'm going to go to Mr. Klein for our city manager report.
Mayor, members of council, thank you. Actually, I have a few things I want to talk to you about, so sorry for taking a little longer on this one. First off, with respect to Superintendent Kivista, it was a real pleasure getting to know you and meet you at the interviews, and we were thrilled that we would have a quality person like that apply to our district, and more importantly, would take the job. I think Councilor Morton and I would agree that we were pretty darn happy to see you accept that job, so thank you for being here. So just run through a few other things, actually a number of things. I'll give you a little bit of update on a couple of what our digital tools. Indy Works, as everybody knows, is an app that's available to the public to request help from the community, request help from our city for various things, potholes, tall grass, jump cars, out of dogs, whatever. So we get a lot of use of that, and I'll just run through a few statistics for you. We've had 220 requests have been submitted and completed so far this year. Use of the app has more than doubled. The top 3 request types are trees and vegetation, potholes, and park issues. And finally, 1,278 people have downloaded and installed the app on their mobile device, so that's pretty good. By my numbers, that's probably about 15% of the city's population. So we're definitely, if you expect one per household, but anyway, I think we're doing pretty well with that app, and we hope to do better. So the newest innovation that we have is the Open Indy that we showed you last time around, I believe. We did a demonstration, and that's our dashboard of finances for the city. So we're already getting some pretty good use of that. We have 104 people who have used our financial portal since launching it last month. Visitors spend an average about 6 minutes viewing the information on the website, so they get there and they stay there for a while. So that's good news. 2/3 of our new visitors and 1/3 are returning visitors, and most are local visitors. So around 25 are from Salem, Portland, and Seattle. And I would add, for the benefit of the last citizen who was asking questions, a lot of the information they may be looking for is right there on that Open Indy portal. So if you go to our city website, you can find a link to that, and then dive right into all the numbers that you'd like to dive into. Anybody can. So it's a good system. It's very transparent. It's where we continue to try to be as a government. In the collaboration, we are having a meeting this Friday at ICC with the region's IT directors. I'm still talking about some of the IT things that are going on. We will be discussing the transition to a new, what's called an RMS system. It's a regional management system. And I cut out my note on this, was this police related, correct?
Yes.
Law enforcement system. So this is ongoing here.
follow up on one item. We have, as you are aware, we have an outstanding lien on the prior owner of the old city hall. That's pending resolution in bankruptcy. We expect to hear something in October now. There's been a fair amount of legal activity around that issue. That total lien has a value of up to about $20,000. I don't have the exact figure. So we hope to secure some portion or all of that. This month, a number of us will be attending a breakfast. It's Hispanic Heritage Month, so that will be over in Salem for that. For those of you who are watching your calendars, if you know, just a reminder, the League of Oregon Cities event is coming up at the end of the month. I don't know if there's still time to register, Karen, or we're done on that. So just don't miss it if you're already registered. If you did, there you go. Just a quick summary on some of the development that's underway. We have Dollar General is. Did I give you? I think I'm going to be giving you a little more on that down. Well, maybe I'm not. Yeah, so Dollar General is under construction. The Gun Club subdivision is under construction, and today we've got some further word on the independent subdivision is will be going into construction very shortly as well. So we were waiting on a couple of one major hurdle event today, so we think that's about ready to get going over there.
What
And
was
actually,
the-
they've actually showed up. We had to sort of stop them and say, wait a minute, we need a couple of comments.
What was the first subdivision you said was underway?
The first one was Dollar General, that's the
Yeah.
commercial store. The other one was the Gun Club subdivision.
Oh, gotcha.
Actually, I don't know the full name for it, but.
Quail
Quail
Crossing.
Crossing, thank you, yeah, Quail Crossing. So they continue to move
And
forward.
does the independent subdivision have a name, or is that?
That unfortunately is the next.
Okay. Well, we should be proud.
Yep. Quail Crossing continues to move forward, and the streets will be paved this month. Apparently all the lots are all fully accounted for. They can't be sold until the subdivision is completed, but they're pretty well accounted for, so he's ready to finish that as quickly as possible. We had a meeting today to talk further strategies across about a southern crossing. It's been referred to as a southern arterial, subway moving east to west across the southern portion of the city. So we're still working on that, looking to get the best strategy in place for that. It's not an inexpensive or not, and it's a pretty difficult project, but I think we're going to make some progress on that. Pass on this one. New signage for the downtown area, so walk zone on Main Street from B Street to D Street includes Riverview Park, and a walk zone requires walking bicycles, skateboards, and scooters. So there's new signage for that downtown. It's always been part of our code. We're just giving people a little better alert, heads up on that, so we have fewer pedestrian and vehicular conflicts on the sidewalks. We have, we'll have a new hire. I'll let Kai introduce that person. He's in the audience today. We expect to get permission to proceed from ODOT this month for a $2 million grant for the S Street Bridge replacement. The project will take 2 to 3 years for completion. So that is moving forward. We are in the process of pilot testing the filter cartridges for the Joint Monmouth Independence Water Project. And the filters start testing next month, finish in 6 months. So that's, you've been asking about that particular collaboration, and that's clearly in progress. We're working with their staff, their Public Works Department to make that happen. So we have 3 OSU anthropology students are in town for the week doing interviews, exploring the intersection of agriculture, wildlife, and revitalizing rural communities. You probably recognize that I've moved on to economic development issues. So some of these things. Finalizing the application, and if you didn't recognize the last one, you will from this one, finalizing the application for our federal smart gigabit community designation. We are partners with Intel, OSU, Woo, Central, PSU, and several other tech companies and organizations. And even Portland wants to partner with us on this. So this is a great project. It would be a great score to get this designation, and we're feeling pretty confident about this one. Sean spoke at the Business Retention and Expansion Summit for Rural Communities in Dallas. We're on the Rural Development Initiatives Group, so we continue to showcase our leadership role in this area. Showed a couple of business prospects around town. The space is getting, in fact, fairly tight down there, trying to find a
good home for some places. It's getting a little more challenging because they're filling up, or some things are just not perfect matches, but it's getting a little more difficult as time goes on. So our engagement officer, Ruben Payadaris, is starting Spanish Sir class this Friday. He already has, as a teacher, he already has 15 participants signed up so far, so that's great news. We will have that much better emergency response when the time is needed. The annual Festival Informativo, which was delayed this year because of the changeovers, changes to the program, will be on September 24th. It's a Sunday. I believe that starts at 12 o'clock noon on Sunday, 12 or 12:30 right after church gets out. We, of course, serve food, and it's a great opportunity for Latina and others to come and learn about what's going on, what's available. We are, our event coordinator at my behest is working on getting a Abraham Lincoln reenactment in the community, an event. I had the pleasure, and some of us went to Lee will have the pleasure as well again, of seeing a Portland actor who does Lincoln reenactments, does an amazing job of it. And we're going to try and see if we can showcase that program here in the center, or perhaps at the school district. We have to get to talk with the superintendent, but we're getting a nod on that. So, it's a great show, and just does a wonderful job. Anyway, it's kind of fun. So we'll give you more as that proceeds. The old City Hall, amongst all the things that we're considering with that, and a couple things on that. One, we're opening up for Toys for Tots again this year, like we did last year. So they will be there through the winter, collecting and staging the toys for their giveaway during the holiday season. So it had no other use, so it's good to have the lights on and have somebody use it for a very worthwhile purpose. So we're doing that. We are also, as you know, we are looking at numerous options for its reuse. And one of those, as we've discussed before, is the possibility of the museum relocating to that location. We have received some preliminary architectural information that provides some cost estimation. The museum boards have taken a look at that. They're very interested, so we're going to further that work and come back to you with some kind of very, very preliminary draft proposal of what something could look like, and that would allow them to proceed in fundraising if it seems of interest to you. Recognizing that there are many other options on the table, we are a long ways from pulling the trigger and saying that's where we're going to go. Just understanding that that's one of many options, but we're going to continue to do some diligence on that work, on that proposal. So I'm getting some looks. Does anyone ask questions about that in particular? Okay. Anyway, that is moving forward. I'm kind of through my report. I'm going to turn this over in a minute to Sean and to introduce a couple of new members of our team, and Kai to introduce another member of his team. But first, before we do that, we have had a year together with Mr. Monty Hall, who is out there somewhere, and it's been an amazing year with this young man who has done just tremendous things. Those who had an opportunity to work with him, we are so glad that he has graced our doorstep with his presence, and that he is so successful, and that he remains in Oregon and the Salem area to continue his good work. So this is an opportunity, frankly, for him to say whatever he wants to say, but I'm just going to get to the floor for this and give you an opportunity if anybody wants to just say thank you for joining us tonight. So with that, then I'll give it to Sean.
Monty, do you want to come on up? I want to give you a chance to say something before I say something.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, City of Independence staff, and also council, community members. I guess overall, so I guess now I've been here for about a year or so, just over a year, beginning around this time last year and ending just after the eclipse. It's been a great experience. It's been really good being here, working with the Independence Downtown Association, with various downtown businesses and nonprofits, just learning a lot from various community members and also staff. So I just really want to say just thank you to the City of Independence. I know that you all are very appreciative of the work that I've done, and I'm thankful for that, but I'm also really appreciative of the community here, of the spirit and of the work ethic that this community has. I think is very different than a lot of other communities. in Oregon. So yeah, just thank you all.
Imani, on behalf of myself and the council and our city, I just really want to say how much it's been fun to work with you. It's been fun to watch the growth that's taken place. You've added to our community, and I know that wherever you go, and I think it's Salem, for the next job, I know that they will be a better place because of your presence. And come and visit us often. You'll be very welcome here.
Will do. Thank you.
And I'd like to echo that on behalf of the Downtown Association. A year ago, he would have been very quiet up here, but look at him now, he's making a public speech. You've been an asset for downtown. I especially appreciate all the push you gave on all the new ideas. And because of Imani's pushing, we're having a murder mystery dinner, which I'll talk about later,
I'm
because
sure you
I
will.
got tickets.
Great.
But you have been, as I met your replacement today, and I agree with her, she has big shoes to fill.
Oh yeah, but I think she'll do a really good job.
Great. Well, thank you. Applause. Mr. Irvine, I think it's to you.
Well, with the old in with the new, I guess. Before I make introductions, I just want to kind of comment that the RARE program is something that we've worked with quite a few times over the years. And I know a lot of other communities have taken advantage of this program. And really, universally, the experience is that the folks who come through that program are really high quality people, high caliber, great experience, and they really do add a lot of value to the community. So I'm really excited to be able to introduce our two new RARE participants here. Obviously, we had a great time with Imani. Emily Gluckin also was working with our Polk County Tourism Alliance. She went on to grad school in Denver, and unfortunately that started too soon for us to give her a truly proper goodbye from you all, but I'm sure she says thank you from afar, and we did the same. But anyways, I want to introduce Ali Salzer and Alexandra Ferrara. They're the two who are going to be working with the Downtown Association and the Polk County Tourism Alliance. They'll be doing similar work to Emily and Imani, but really kind of taking it the next step. Trying to continue things and also bring some of their own creativity and their own interest to bear. So why don't you guys come up and you can just give them a little quick bit about your background and see if they got any questions for you. I hope I didn't scare them too much by telling them not too nervous.
Good evening and welcome to City Council.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It's nice to meet you all. I'm Alexandra Ferrara, so I'm taking over Imani's spot. Definitely big shoes to fill, but I'm excited to be in the community and start my work with the Independence Downtown Association. I'm coming from Central Illinois, so a little bit. And I am a recent graduate. I studied interior design and urban studies, but throughout my time at college, I worked a lot with our local government back in my community in Illinois, so I kind of have a little idea of how things run, but it's interesting. I'm excited to see how Independence runs in the city here. Yeah, so pretty much I'm just excited. I look forward to a year from now when I can give a good speech like that.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She jumped right in with both feet today because she had her first Independence Downtown Association board meeting
I'll take it.
and volunteered for something already.
Hello everyone, my name is Ali Salzer. I am the other new RARE member for this year. I'm going to be working with the Polk County Tourism Association, Tourism Alliance. I'm the Tourism Development Coordinator, so I know that I will be working with their action teams and helping them with the various projects that they already have going, and also doing some marketing and promotional content development for the Polk County tourism in general. I'm also not from this area. I'm coming here from Southern Arizona. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. That's where I went to school. I graduated with a degree in anthropology from the University of Arizona. And I have some background in community outreach and community-based research, but I'm just really looking forward to this opportunity. I'm very excited to get to know everyone and really become a part of the Independence community.
Well, welcome, and we're glad you're here. Thank you.
So I will add that I told them that really their main task these first few weeks is really just to get out and meet people, learn what the community, what the region's all about. So if you see them around, say, hey, buy a cup of coffee or something, chat them up. If you do something that you think specifically intersects with what their work is or could be, again, reach out and have a chat, because that's what it's all about here for the first few weeks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'd like to introduce Newville Dorsey Boyd. He's actually a local product. He grew up in Monmouth and Independence. He graduated from Central High School and also Glen Bend Community College this June. He was our intern last year also. So I'd like to introduce Travis Gibson. And Travis is going to be shadowing Aaron Weimer. He's already helped out as an intern and as a temp worker this summer. And so he's been on the 4th of July. He's also been at the Eclipse event and worked quite a few extra hours because we're trying to keep the overtime down at those events. So, anyway, he's a great asset to the city, and we're looking forward to working with him.
Great. Well, welcome to our community.
Thank you.
Appreciate you'll be working for us. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to continue moving forward. And Ms. Butch, I think you have the next item. Am I correct? You actually have several items in the next items.
So first off, we've got our rate study presentation from Steve Donovan, who you met just a month ago. So anyway, Steve is here to do a presentation of his work.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. I asked Gloria to hand out some paper to you tonight. So you should have two items, a color packet of the slides of the PowerPoint presentation, and then a one-page spreadsheet sort of thing that I want to talk about at the end, if that's okay with you, Mayor. So Vanna White over here is going to run the show for me. Take it away, Vanna. First of all, last month I told you we're going to have a two-step process on this rate study. The first is an analysis of the revenue requirements, and that is really a business plan. How much money does it take to fund the utility systems? And then next month we'll come back with where do we get the money from to fund the revenue requirements for rates. So think of this tonight as an analysis of your business plan. And I'll talk about, we'll limit this conversation to water and sewer, and then we also have corresponding rates, monthly bills, as it were, for water and sewer, all of our neighboring communities. Go ahead, Karen. So, forecasts of changes in system revenue requirements. Go ahead. First, over the 5-year forecast period, based on the business plan that we put together, between David and Gloria and Kai, we put together a plan. It averages about 2.5% per year. Go ahead, Karen. And you can see there the bars in that chart show that it bounces around really close to the 2.5% per year. That is slightly below current inflation, so I think water's in good shape based on the plan we've got. However, wastewater, we're going to be climbing a hill on wastewater. Your current 5-year capital improvement plan for wastewater says you need to spend $20 million. I could not fund that regionally or reasonably in 5 years. So I've asked, with David's input and Gloria's input, we pushed the projects back off of the 5-year horizon. So the 5-year plan that we're planning on funding is about $9 million. So we've taken it in half, but that additional 10 or $11 million, that's going to come in another 5 years, so we're going to have to anticipate that. Go ahead, Karen. So let's move into water. The water capital improvement plan, when I talk about capital improvement plan, I kind of obsess on it. If we didn't have to make capital improvements to the system, All we have to do is fund ongoing operations. And generally speaking, that kind of keeps up with inflation. It's the constant repair and replacement of these capital improvement systems that is going to be driving the future rates. And then, of course, the next question is, well, where are we going to get the money to fund these five-year programs? $2.2 million. And as you can see here, one of your earlier speakers said the water rights. If you look at that first bar, the largest component, almost $800,000 of the current fiscal year's capital improvement plan, is for the acquisition of in-stream water rights. And Mayor, I think you know this, but water rights are very expensive. Here in Oregon, we're blessed with a fairly modest, because our climate is fairly low. Water rights in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Arizona, New Mexico, millions of dollars per acre foot. So it is a very expensive proposition. And a lot of people don't know this, but a water right is a limited resource and it has a market value. And we would be proposing to purchase a in-stream water right, a junior right, is that correct, Pat? On this one?
The newest one's a senior.
A senior right. So in Oregon, there are different levels of right, senior and a junior right. We would be trying to secure a senior in-stream right, which is the most stable and most expensive form of right that you can get because it's a reliable source of water. So that being said, the balance of the capital improvement plan really is, as you can see, is broken out into water treatment, transmission and distribution, that's pipes, storage and reservoirs. What do you think? We have to build big storage reservoirs because of days like today when it's 80 degrees. And we have to design a water system that's going to be able to fight fires on two sides of town and still have everybody watering their lawns and still have 20 pounds of hydrostatic pressure in the lines. That's why we have these big storage systems. That's why we have big sources of supply. If we didn't need all of that storage and we said we're not going to supply fire protection, we're not going to supply irrigation, we could save a lot of money. But we have to do that. Go ahead, Karen. So, as I said, now that we've got this $2.2 million 5-year capital improvement plan, how are we going to fund it? Well, our plan calls for $1.2 million of that coming from new bonds, new debt that will be issued by the city. $400,000 from system development charges. That's another issue that came up. Where does that system development charge money go? It goes for the capacity expanding components of projects. Under statute, which is state law, system development charges can only be used for capacity expanding or level of performance increasing project costs, either a portion of a project or an entire project. An example might be, we're going to replace a 4-inch line on Main Street that's undersized right now. We're going to replace it with an 8-inch line. So existing customers are going to benefit, but we're upsizing that line for future growth. So a portion of that cost would be SDC eligible. And that's as prescribed under statute. And then finally, cash from rates, about $655,000 from rates. That's our funding strategy. So go ahead, Gary, you can show that pie chart. Let's keep looking. There's the long-term debt, there's the SDCs, and there's the cash from rates. Go ahead. This is the business side of the equation. And this first green line you see here is the total ending fund balance that we're forecasting over the 5-year forecast horizon. The blue line is the minimum 60 days operating reserves I deem necessary, and it's an industry practice for water. So in our forecast here, we are providing adequate ending fund balance to meet the emergency reserve requirement at all times. That was one of the goals of the forecast. And in some cases that does not happen. I have several communities where the blue line is above the green line, and that's no bueno. Go ahead, Karen. Neighboring communities' water bills. Now this is assuming 10 units, 10 100 cubic feet units. And as you can see, under current rates, you're about 60, my eyes don't work, 63 bucks, is that Karen? 63 bucks. So you're on the higher end of the range there for a comparable level of consumption. And at the end, we're going to bring these back together. So I just wanted to show you that you're not the highest, but you're up there. Go ahead. Forecasted rates, monthly bills, and system revenue requirements. Go ahead, Karen. So what we did here is we said we took the current scheduled charges. Your base charge is $32.60 a month. Your volume charge, your commodity charge, is $3.12. Your community does not have any allowance in that base. A lot of communities will have 2 or 3 units that are included in that base charge as to sort of let your low water consumers, your seniors and small families sort of get a benefit. But it doesn't promote conservation. Your rate structure does promote conservation because you pay for what you use. And I think that's commendable. So over 5 years, go ahead, come back to that for a second, Karen, please. So what we're talking about, $63.80 right now. Our forecast indicates at 2.5% roughly per year increase in revenue requirements and rates for that matter. It'd be $70.43 within 5 years. Okay, Karen. On the wastewater side, as I said, your current 5-year capital improvement plan is over $20 million. I've got it here, and it's $20,700,000. And the big project, the biggest piece of that project is the wastewater treatment plant and the spray irrigation project, which I know you're all familiar with. So what we're proposing to do is the component of that project that was the land acquisition for spray irrigation, we're going to fund that, and that is going forward. The actual building of the bioreactor membrane plant and upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant, we've pushed that back because we simply can't fund it effectively under this 5-year forecast. The balance is, what it shows here is pumping plant, collection and transmission, which is the lines, wastewater treatment, which is the plant, water reuse, which is the project that we're talking about for spray irrigation, and then operations and maintenance projects. But it's still a big nut. So how are we going to fund this? What we're proposing to do, and what I'm suggesting, and one of the scopes of work in my work was to identify funding sources for these types of projects. And one that I've worked with that I'm very, very excited about is the Oregon DEQ's Clean Water State Revolving Loan Program with a sponsorship option. And it's in your packet. You can read the paragraphs here. It's a little confusing. Karen, can we go to the next slide? And I'll give you the math of it and why it is so seductive, let's say. Under a conventional SRF loan, hold up, Karen, hold up. Sorry, take away my thunder. All right, under a conventional SRF loan, that's a standard wastewater treatment project. And if you look at the fiscal 2018-19 capital improvement plan, it was $4.9 million. If you go back to your prior page, if we bonded that under their program at 2.53% for 20 years, we generate an annual principal and interest payment of $318,577. So keep that in mind. That's the conventional project. Under the sponsorship option, we say, what principal could we borrow at 1% that would generate the same $318,577 in principal and interest? Go ahead, Karen. So we know we're going to have to borrow $4.9 million for the standard wastewater treatment projects. But how much more could we get for a sponsorship project? And the answer is $796,000. $796,600. So go ahead, the last one, Karen. So in other words, we could borrow $5.748 million at 1% at the same principal and interest payment that we would have gotten under a conventional loan. So they don't like to say this, but in my world, that's a grant. That's almost $800,000 that we're going to get thrown to us under the program that we would not have gotten under a conventional loan. The key, though, and one of the things that, and I've made some calls, that looks conspicuously close to that $800,000 you need for your senior in-stream right, doesn't it? So I made some calls to see if we could fund the purchase of the in-stream water right with this project, and we can't. I was told we cannot, because it's not a water quality enhancing project. The hook that the DEQ and the EPA, who funds this, by the way, is These projects have to be water quality enhancing projects. For instance, riparian corridor improvements along the river, managed wetlands or man-made wetlands, or other stormwater projects. They will all qualify. You have a number of projects of that flavor that can be funded. So that's why I find this to be such a very, very seductive program, including, even if we didn't take advantage, 2.53% under the conventional loan program is still below market rates. We are also looking, David asked me to make sure I bring this out. The forecast that we've got here is a conservative forecast. It's going to give you the worst case scenario. We're still chasing community development block grants. We're also chasing low-cost loans from the Oregon Department of Oregon Business, which is the, what's the name of those darn loans? IFA, Infrastructure Finance Authority loans. We'll be chasing those, and you're going to have a conversation after one of your items tonight about a loan program. But I think this is something that we should really chase, and especially since you're going to be facing wastewater costs over the next 10 years that are going to be substantial. Go ahead, Karen. What our strategy is right now, in lieu of any other grants or other programs, is we're going to borrow $7.4 million from somewhere. I suggest that we certainly chase the DEQ Clean Water State Revolving Loan Program. $2 million of system development charges, and you say, well, Steve, why is it so much more on sewer for SDCs than wastewater water? It's because the projects, in the expensive projects on the wastewater side, are more geared toward growth, so they're SDC eligible. So if we've got the money, we can pay it, and it's SDC eligible. And then finally, $281,000 from rates to make the funding gap close. Go ahead, Karen, you can show the pie chart there too. Okay. Here's the same chart we looked at before. This is my litmus test of liquidity. Here is the ending fund balance in the sewer fund, and then the next line is the minimum requirement. If you'll notice, you'll see, why is that gap so big? Why do we have so much money in that green line? Well, when we're borrowing money, we have to have 1 year's, well, in this case, usually 1 year's worth of debt service in a debt service reserve account that always has to be held in reserve. So part of that green line's height is the debt service reserve account, in addition to free cash flow. The gentleman that spoke before said some of these are restricted reserves. A debt service reserve account is definitely a restricted account. Go ahead, Karen. And then neighboring community rates. And this is the good story. Your sewer rates in our neighboring communities is fairly low. It's relatively low. I've got folks in Oregon that are already over $100 a month just for sewer, for a single family home. So, and all of these other communities are on the same escalator you are. Newburgh, they just recently replaced their wastewater treatment plant. Portland, you've heard all the stories of Portland, but they spent on their sewer system. Wilsonville, same thing. They recently had to replace in the entirety of their wastewater treatment plant. So, and Canby's on the road. Canby's growing so fast that they're going to have to make an expansion on theirs. Go ahead, Karen. So, on wastewater, taking the roughly 5 and change % increase over 5 years, your current bill is $45.99 per month for single family. It would go up to $57.02 over the 5-year forecast. But keep in mind, you still have 5 years after that with quite a bit of work, so you're going to be on the rate escalator going up for a while. Okay, now go ahead, just hit a click one at a time. That's the water. Now we're going to add on to that. Go ahead, Karen, click the wastewater. One more. And you'll see this green bar. I wanted to talk to you about this. That green fraction on this bar chart wasn't even there 10 years ago. And what I think you're going to be facing as a council is street maintenance fees. Gasoline tax is simply not generating enough revenue to keep up with street maintenance. Most communities of your size and larger have come to grips with that through a dedicated street maintenance fee. And I would suspect that within the next 5 years, that green bar is going to almost be universal. without any change in the way we fund street maintenance or highway building. Go ahead, Karen. This one is stormwater, and you can see most everybody has stormwater. There are some that don't. Monmouth does not, Candy does not. And then finally, parks. That's starting to poke in. Silverton has a parks maintenance fee. And we're seeing more and more communities asking the question, our general fund can barely support the police force that we've got. How do we fund park maintenance? How do we fund everything else that we want to do? And it's probably hard to think about this, but many communities are heading toward a park maintenance fee structure. And then, Karen? So, next steps. We will finalize what we're doing here tonight, assuming that the business plan is acceptable to you. And then, Karen, go ahead. We'll come back in your October meeting with a final report and a final rate recommendation with a 5-year forecast. And then we're going to continue work securing funding sources. And I think that's one of the things that staff is going to be working on very hard, because there's a long lead time with respect to securing the funding for these types of projects. And SDCs from Independence Landing and the urban renewal area, we certainly want to see that expand and grow and get going. The Clean Water State Revolving Loan Program, and then of course the Community Development Block Grant money, and any other stones we can turn. Go ahead, Karen. Okay, thank you. Now, this one-page spreadsheet. Commissioner Day, you brought this up last time about what are our utilities paying for Minnet? And we thought we'd take that even one step further, because there were some questions. ICC. What are the utilities paying for ICC? So what you've got in front of you here is my analysis that I asked staff to provide me with the data. I produced this. I didn't ask them to do it. And as you can see, if you go to the bottom, I'll get to the answer of it. The monthly Minnet debt service impacts on water customers is $14.53 a month per water account. Councilor Day, I said it was about $10 last month. I was wrong because I had thought that there were more accounts. There were only 2,440 accounts. I thought there were about 3,000. So this is an exact number out of the billing system.
It's all right. Other people have been wrong also.
The next one is the ICC debt service impacts on utilities. And my calculations are $6.52 per customer per month who receives water, sewer, and stormwater. So for a total of $21.05 a month is the rate impact between Minnet and the ICC debt service. And I know that's something that you've all been interested in, and I thought, and it wasn't difficult to get. It's not like it was mysteriously hidden. Staff was not trying to hide anything. It took me about 3 minutes to figure it out. So the data is there. It's just a question of putting the X's and O's together. So I know that's something that you were interested in. I wanted to present it for you.
Where's I followed on the 1453 for Minnet, but I'm not seeing that kind of a number for ICC.
Let me walk you through it. The total debt service on this building's ICC, which is two components. There's two loans. There's the 2010 Civic Center bonds and then the 2016 refunding bonds. If you look at the bottom, that's $8,888,831. You see that in the bottom? Mm-hmm. Now come on back up, and you'll see ICC. There's the urban renewal share of that $888,000 is $444,000. You see that in the top part of the spreadsheet?
No.
Four lines down.
Here? Oh, you are sure, okay.
Okay, and then you'll see the general fund picks up $222,000 of it, and then the utilities have to pick up $222,208 of it. Now that $222,208 has to be spread between water, sewer, streets, and stormwater. Gloria does an indirect cost analysis every year, and she's determined that the allocations, is that based on direct labor or? Basically, it's based on the bodies, the direct labor. And you'll notice that across it, 15% of that 200,000 went to streets, 40% went to sewer, 35% went to water, 10% went to storm, and the corresponding dollars. You with me? Mm-hmm. So, and then that divided by the number of active accounts for each of those utilities, it comes down to $3.13 for sewer, $2.66 for water, 74 cents for storm, for a total of $6.52. And of course, the next obvious thing is that $33,000 that has to go to streets, that's just being paid for out of street fund revenues. So that's even more cost. But I don't know where else to pay it. And this is not uncommon. I mean, I see this all over the nation. And the worst I've ever seen is Cook County, Illinois. A young lady from Illinois.
There's probably a lot of things from Cook County, Illinois that would be
But this is the same kind of thing, is there are indirect costs that have to be funded, and they have, and your measure 50, and measure 5 first, and then measure 47, and then measure 50, cast our lot forever now. If you're not growing, you will be dying under measure 50, because we've limited our ability to control our destiny through how we tax our properties. So that's fixed, and that can grow at maybe 3% per year. So anything else that we want to do, we have to have a conversation of how we're going to fund it. I think you brought a great question last time, and I think it's only fair that you got a sound answer.
That's good.
So I know you got a lot on your agenda, but I will be back next month for a recommendation. But I do ask not to make any movement tonight, or motions, or adopt anything. Does this plan pass muster with the council? Because the rates will be nothing if I don't have a plan. So we're talking 2.5% per year rate increases generally for water, and about 5.5% per year for sewer.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Talking about on the sewer side of the thing, we've got 4 ponds up here, which are our storage ponds and our treatment ponds.
Right, right.
Are we taking the hurdle and going from, we have problems during the summer because we can't dump, and we have a capacity limitation, to we are pure as a driven snow, we're not dumping anything at any time, and now everything's filtered, and we're the best city in Oregon?
No, you're in the same boat as just about everybody, and it comes back to something called water quality impaired stream. Most rivers in the western Oregon and eastern Oregon, for that matter, are considered water quality impaired streams by DEQ. And in our case, the Willamette is water quality impaired in the summertime, not for any pollutants that we put in it, other than temperature. We can't put warm water in the river. That's what your limitation is, and that split discharge in your NP, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, will not go away. We're going to be with that.
I understand. So we've been doing this for 10 years. I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
And then DEQ goes, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But they keep letting us do it. So why not continue and reduce the amount that we're buying? In other words, the amount of purchases.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going here?
Yeah, and I just finished down in Coos Bay, and there was a very, very nasty situation down there. And what's going to happen is the DEQ is a regulatory agency. It is the agent of the EPA under the Clean Water Act. And what will happen is they will come back to you and they will say, you need to follow our rules. And Councilor Day is going to say, yeah, go pound sand. We don't want to do that because it's too expensive. And the DEQ is going to come back to you and they're going to initiate what's called a Mutual Agreement and Order, MAO. And it's going to be a binding contract between the city and you. And it's going to have a series of goals and basic milestones of how you're going to achieve what they want you to do. And if you miss them, there's going to be certain also milestones of, for lack of a better term, enforcement. And the most important enforcement will be, we will take that control away from you, Councilor Day, and we will have a federal judge determine how you're going to build your treatment plant and what your rates will be. One, by the way, Councilor Day, you're going to be the local J-level official under the Clean Water Act.
So give me a couple examples I can look up on where they've done that to who in Oregon.
MAOs? Yeah, I can give you 2 of them right now. Water Environment Services in Clackamas County. The city of Coos Bay is another one that they have just on that. And I want to say Canningville, the city of Canningville, I might be a little loose in that, but those two are guaranteed. Mutual agreement and order.
I'll add two more. Brownsville and Junction City are operating under MAOs. It's very, very common. That's the next step in enforcement, and like Steven says, the next step is the courts, and it just gets progressively more expensive.
And you don't want a federal judge controlling your destiny.
I have one more question concerning the figures that you gave to us here. You have 444,000 and change that comes from the urban renewal district.
Right.
And could I ask, and this may be a question for Gloria, I know the urban renewal district right now is in a deficit position, is that correct?
That's correct, but this is in the debt service fund for urban renewal. You're talking about the projects fund, but overall, urban renewal, yes, is in a deficit.
So money must be funneled into there from other places in order to be able to produce this 444,000.
That is directly paid from urban renewal property taxes, incremental tax.
Okay.
Additional questions for clarification here. We're not going to go to full debate here, but we're trying to make sure that we understand. Go ahead, Tom. I think.
Yeah, I had a couple questions about, so you pushed back the biomembrane plant. Is that to the 6th year, or to how far back is this pushed it away? out of this analysis is what you pushed it, okay. And how would that sit with the DEQ?
Right now, you are not under an MAO. You are under no obligation right now under your permit to do it. So we know it's coming. They know it's coming. Renewal of your permit will be within 5 years, I would suspect. Your NPDES permit?
I actually don't know.
I don't know. I think that's, but I do believe that's correct.
And under the next, and the way I say this to you, the way the permits are written under the Clean Water Act, you can never go back. It's called the anti-backsliding clause of under the Clean Water Act. Any regulation that you have today can never be less stringent tomorrow than it is today. And the DEQ can adjudicate a higher standard of treatment, which is coming your way by the biomembrane reactor project. So there's just no way on earth that you're going to be able to stay where you are. And your permit will be renegotiated with a higher standard.
So, but the thought is that if we're looking like we're making progress and we're making plans for it, we could buy ourselves a little time. Is that the thought?
Counselor, if he doesn't answer, I will. I think that's exactly correct.
I can address that. So I agree, and along with population as being one of the driving factors of expansion, regulation is the other. So unfortunately, that's just the way the government works, and we want cleaner water and greener grass and cleaner streets. So as we regulate, that increases the cost of the equipment, the upgrade. So capacity is not always your issue. In this case, it's both. So to identify with phase 2 and the ability to push that out, we're going to try and identify some of the issues and components that would be for phase 2, for the MBR, still implement them, but phase them in. So say a screen, which will take out a lot of the biosolids. So that's been on the books for quite a while. It's never happened. But we'll phase that piece in before we put it in the MBR, see where we're at. We'll look at the data, the test, the lab results we're getting. We'll keep in contact with DEQ. I have a strong feeling that we can push it out because we're not under an MAO. And DEQ has not cited the city for any treatment problems or issues. So although we have been discharging early, that's a capacity issue, it's a separate issue from treatment. So I think we can extend that time period, not indefinitely, but we can push it out.
That's why I think that we're looking at this in 5-year increments. This 5-year increment, we're going to buy the land for the spray irrigation project because there's a sunset on that. There's a clock ticking on that one. We'll secure that land. And then Kai can start doing his analysis and see how that next 5-year period, where that will fall. So when I said I pushed, I'm pushing there, pushing to him for better science.
And the the property that's going to be acquired for the irrigation, is that within city limits?
No, I believe that would be leased, not acquired.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be leased.
Yeah, that's why I was not remembering anything about acquiring property.
No, it's farmland.
Okay.
We're looking for basically an irrigation, a source of a crop that we can irrigate.
Okay.
And there's limitations on that. On spray irrigation, there's class A, B, and C water, and you cannot irrigate food crops. So it's got to be silage and things like that. So it limits your ability, it limits your choices, as it were.
Additional questions at this point, because I'm sure that there will be additional questions over time. And so what I'm going to suggest is that if you have detailed questions, approach the staff and they'll help. And then we will have obviously further discussion. But does that sound okay? Is this a helpful outlining a business plan? Is this looking, we're not voting anything, but does this look like a reasonable approach?
Go forward and do further analysis.
Yeah, but it looks like it's going in the right direction.
It's daunting to do more depth, but I don't think there's any other way to accomplish this than through depth, and it certainly doesn't make us unique from other communities. They're doing it the same way.
See, you mean the fence posts, you folks are in better shape than a lot of people I come up with. I got folks that they've had people elected with their strategists. I was elected to this board to never raise a rate or a tax. So 10 years later, you're facing Mount Everest, and you've got an MAO, and what was a $10 million project 5 years ago is now a $40 million project. You know the drill. I mean, I'm not telling you folks anything, but you face this every day. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you. Thank you. Squitch, I think you have the next item also.
Mr. Cloud is going to take up this part.
Okay.
Hello again. So one of the ways that we're looking at funding the phase one portion of the sewer project is through DEQ SRF loan. And that was one of the things that Steve touched on earlier. He touched on the non-point. We are not looking at a non-point at this time, and our application has been in for well over a year, and we still don't have the results. Now, there will be opportunities in the future to look at the non-point source. I'm not sure this is going to be one of them because we would have to start the application over. So that would look at our construction schedule that you've seen from Don Whitehead. That would push that out probably 24 months. Now, whether DEQ would allow that or not, I don't know. And it's certainly something we can talk to them about. We are hopefully within 24 hours of getting our notice from DEQ. Right now, we're waiting for Warm Springs to sign off. They are one of the stakeholders on the board for the SRF, so that's why they're involved. At one point in time, they were one of the first boards to sign off on it, but for whatever reason, so they were required to respond again, and we're going to hear tomorrow whether they did respond or whether they're not required to respond again. So that's what we're on.
Can you, just for me, can you explain what you just said?
So we have an application in for the SRF loans.
Okay,
right now.
SRF.
Yeah.
What's that?
State revolving loan fund.
State revolving.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So that's the vehicle that we're looking to finance this project with, which would be phase one. You have once it's awarded, you have a 3-year window to accept or deny that loan. And we'll be bringing that back to council at some point. So the non-point portion is, as he was talking about earlier, is basically it gives you a green project, what I call a green project. So we have those on the books. We have projects that I'm sure would ultimately qualify for that program. Unfortunately, we didn't apply for that program. So I don't want to mislead council in thinking that we're going to be pushing an $800,000 project when we're not. I don't think that it would be worth it in the end to reapply based on the information I've been given from our city engineer about DEQ and where they're at on our early discharge. So, did that answer your question?
And I understood that.
Okay, great.
So would it be fair to say, I'm trying to make sure that I understand completely. So we've applied for a loan through a state loan. It's processing, it's moving its way through. Folks are analyzing it if it makes sense. And then if it does, then if they award it to us, then we have 3 years to make it happen.
Yes.
And so what you're giving us is just, it's in process, it's working its way through. There's no decision to be made at this point, but it's just opening the door for an opportunity so that we can choose to use it or not at a future time. Is that fair?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes.
I just want to make sure that I understood it correctly.
And is there something imminent with DEQ?
No, there's not.
Okay.
The indication they've given us is that, at some point in time, they're going to want to see some action. So the city has been moving forward since 2015.
I think you're getting pushed out of the way here.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I've known you a long time. What the program, you bring up a good point. The current administration has stopped funding the state revolving program. This program is administered by the DEQ on behalf of the EPA. The funding comes from the EPA. And the funding, the seed money that's been coming since 1970, so there's lots of money in our system. When the money gets paid back, you take our loan, you pay it back, it goes back in the system. So there's money here. But one of the points that you brought up that needs to be considered by you folks is the current administration has stopped funding the capital grants. That's the seed money that goes to the states. The Trump administration has determined that they don't want to fund the EPA that way anymore. So they're going through a complete review of EPA funding. That may certainly affect us more down the road, but right now it doesn't. And then Kai's talked about for 36 months. When he comes back, how the process works, and Councilor Day, it's a little convoluted, so stick with us. You guys made a loan application, and you're right, it's going through the mill, it's washing through the tank right now. But in order for it to be a qualified project, it has to get on the qualifications list. So there's a list that has to be made, and that list is all of the projects that DEQ deems qualified. It sends that list back to Mother EPA. EPA says okay, and then it becomes a qualified project on the list. At that time, you have 1 year to enter into a loan agreement with the DEQ. But here's the good stuff. It's run, have you folks ever built a house and have construction financing? Well, that's how this sort of works. Kai's going to get $5 million to build this project over 36 months. What he does is he starts building the project. As the bills come in, Gloria gets a bill. She mails it to the DEQ. The DEQ pays the bill, and this balance starts building. You don't pay anything except accrued interest on the balance you've taken out until the project is complete after 3 years. That's a good thing. So this is another reason this is a good program. Even if you're not taking advantage, like Kai said, when you put this loan application, you didn't use the sponsorship option, it's still a good deal. So don't say, oh gosh, we didn't get the sponsorship, let's walk away. It's a good deal.
Okay? Does that help, folks?
Yes.
Okay?
And one thing I wanted, that we don't typically do a good job in our industry is explaining why your bill is what it is. I looked at MyNet's rates today, and I was looking at the city's water and sewer rates and noticed they're considerably lower if you have a phone, internet, and cable. And it's always surprised me that we can't somehow convey that people will go down to the store and pay a markup of 300% for a bottle of water that the city sells for 300 to 400% less. And I don't know how we don't get that message out there, but we just don't do a good job of it. 2.5%, a lot of people are shell shocked to see that, but it actually, in the cost of inflation, that just covers the bills. So employee costs go up every year. There's medical, there's cost of inflation for gasoline, everything else. Your West Coast Index goes up. So we just barely make the bills meet with that minimum 2.5. So it's interesting to me that we don't get that message out there enough. And I understand people's frustrations, but it's amazing to me that people will pay $125 for a single cell phone, but they don't want to pay $100 sewer, streets. And so that's what's been interesting to me, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so Butch, I guess, you know, there's some free ones, so you get the next one too.
It's been a while since we've had an update on the refunding that we started 2-3 months ago. And so I just wanted to kind of give you a brief update. We're still working with Minnet, and they are still working on their due diligence part for the offering for their refunding their portion. The bond attorneys were willing. Last week we talked to our bond attorneys, and they were willing to work with us, the City of Independence, to defer some of their costs that would benefit Monmouth's portion if Monmouth were to refund also sometime in the near future. So the bond attorneys reached out to the city manager, and they were told that Monmouth does not have any plans to refund their portion. So at this point, Independence will carry on. We won't have a share in that cost burden during the refunding for Minnet. We had talked about the possibility, since we're still waiting for Minnet's due diligence, to go ahead and move forward with just the ICC refunding portion. According to our financial advisor, our rates, he feels that the rates are still, will remain good for a while yet, and so there's still time to wait, so we've decided we'll hang on. According to Minnet's attorney, they feel like they're really, really close, and it could be even sometime this week when the bond counsel will get that due diligence. So, and then it'll move rapidly once we have that. That's about all I have on that.
Questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you keeping us informed, and thank you for working on a refinance that helps save everybody money. Chief Mason, this is to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. In your package, you should have about a 62-page document that should have been some great reading for you.
You have it all memorized, is that right?
I want to just apologize. The document required that all of the use of force policies for all of the agencies that participate were attached, so I attached them. All of that to say, back in 2008, the legislature asked counties to have a plan in how they would respond to an officer use of force, deadly physical force, and they wanted that plan to be something that was approved by the government from that jurisdiction. So in 2008, this council approved the plan that was being followed up until we are now trying to revise it and make just a small change. The change, I hope I outlined clearly enough, is basically so that we will use the same plan and look at incidents where an officer intentionally tried to use deadly physical force, not just if they used deadly physical force, and do that same review and make sure that the attempted use, even though it may not have been, it didn't result in deadly force, that it was still appropriate and that the review is done regardless. So I spoke with the sheriff just prior to writing this up, and he said that the Attorney General had said we didn't actually need to pass it again because we're just doing an update for best practices, but we wanted to take it to all the councils and let them know prior to submitting it to the Attorney General, which we haven't done yet. So basically, we'll just answer any questions that you might have, and it's just the fact that we are sharing it with you that is adequate. We don't have to have any actual action today.
Questions for Chief?
Makes sense.
Appreciate you taking the time to show this to us, and it was invigorating reading it. It was a little bit Thank you.
Incredibly detailed.
Yes, yeah, I'm impressed. It
But I
was.
think in today's climate, we have to have that.
Thank you, Chief, appreciate it. We're gonna move on to new business, please. Hey, I wonder who it is. Ms. Bush. We should just rent you a space at the podium.
I've been saving up in my absences the last
Thank you.
couple of meetings. Before you is a proposed amendment to the land use fees. Our city planner that Mr. Peltz has pointed out a concern that I've had for quite some time. And our land use applications and development applications do not provide for recovering our internal costs for processing those applications. And so this proposes to provide for an administrative fee with those applications that would cover those costs that we're currently not recovering.
Questions for staff?
Yes.
Please do.
Quantify it for me. I need some quantification. I didn't see any dollar numbers here, so how many dollars are we talking about?
Okay.
Not just the, in total, how many dollars do we get in a year that we're going to increase by a 7.5%?
It really depends on the applications. I'm
See,
sorry, I hadn't anticipated that question.
Let me give you why I'm asking it that way. In the document you wrote, or someone wrote, it says, per Oregon statutes, blah, 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 local permitting agencies may establish fees that reflect the actual or average costs of providing services. In reality, what it says is, at an amount no more than the actual or average provided cost providing the service. In other words, you're taking it as, we can do this. They're saying that's the most you can do, right? So they're saying you don't have to recover it all. It's just, you can't go any more.
Right.
And so when I look at this and I go, boy, this must be a significant chunk of change because you guys have done all the work to do it. It's 7.5%. What is it, 7.5% of $5 million or 7.5% of $60,000? And why are we doing it? Because we're not tracking the indirect labor that goes into it. So it kind of tells me it's not really an issue of that somebody's not paying, not willingly paying, it's that we're not willingly tracking.
Right.
So is there another way to solve this? Would be to willingly track it, because you do have the right to go back and bill on the difference.
We could do it that way. It imposes quite a bit of extra work on the staff person that's having to track their time. So each one of us, as we're going through our day, and each time we drop one project and pick up another, we're punching a clock for that. So this way, we've established a fee which we believe is low enough that we're not, it's not meant to be a profit center. Absolutely not. We're just recovering costs, and being at 7.5%, we've looked at just a basic analysis of how much staff time, such as our accounts payable or accounts receivable clerk that process permits and things like that, how much time in a day that she's doing, and we've done it as a relative percentage of the day.
How often do we give back money?
We don't generally, because once that initial deposit is made, we apply actual invoices against those. So in the end, there's rarely a return of any deposit because that's chewed up
quickly.
Would you imagine if we increased the rates by 7.5%, we would now be giving back somebody some money? Or are we still just going to be kissing your sister when it comes to what we charge? Maybe we need to go a lot higher than 7.5%.
It's possible, but we really feel that we don't want to price ourselves out of the market of development. A lot of our other fees, such as our systems development charges, are higher. So we don't want to discourage development, but we do want to recover our costs.
So there's really two ways we can do cost recovery. We can follow the acceptable norms, which is what we're doing here. We're basically looking at what is typical in the industry, in our industry, and place ourselves somewhere in there that's not one of the extremes of the other. Or we can do that time management approach that you're suggesting. It's far more efficient to do the former than the latter. The latter will cost us money to track our costs, and we just internally don't believe that's efficient and it makes sense. To take and do what you're suggesting and try to raise it up and take it to an extreme level. At some point, we're going to give rise to somebody that's going to have a legitimate claim that we're overcharging for our work. And then we have to go back and do exactly that documentation you're talking about. So we're choosing to come to you with most of our rate structures like this by adopting norms, norms of practice out there, rather than going to the extreme of doing the cost analysis, which is the other choice.
Additional comments and questions? Yes.
My only comment was, if you come, I'd be afraid of chasing business off if you're coming forward with an indeterminate amount, saying, we'll charge you at the end once we've figured out what we've done. At least here they have a general idea of what's going to be charged.
Additional questions for staff? Okay, what would you like to do? We have a recommendation. We should do something. I can't think of something.
I move to adopt resolution number 171463, amending the land use fee schedule as presented.
I have a motion?
I'll second.
And a second. Is there additional discussion? No additional discussion?
This is we're only raising these prices by 1/13 of the price. So 500, we're raising it 1/13. It just doesn't seem like we're talking about very much money. That's the thing every time we're doing something, we're always raising prices. It just, I'd like to have an idea, how much is this going to raise? I haven't heard how much.
I think we can come back to this with estimates.
Well, I can go for it a lot easier if I have an idea that it's going to make us an extra 50 grand, or is it going to make 5?
Regardless of whatever action you take tonight, whether you vote for it or not, we can go back.
Okay.
We can go back with more information.
I think part of the problem is that the past few years, our applications have been very low, so that money would not be very much. This year it's higher, so it's going to be a little more money.
Yeah. It's a yo-yo.
Yeah, so.
Additional discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're going to continue moving forward. And, excuse me, I'm going to flip my page here. Intergovernmental agreement on the homeless initiative, Mr. Klein.
Yeah, I think I have my voice back for you now.
Thank you.
In your packet is a staff report, is a draft of a homeless initiative IGA. That IGA was put together initially as per the staff report with the communities of Marion County, Salem, and Kaiser, with using Mid-Atlantic Valley Council of Governments as a vehicle to deliver those services. We asked whether we could participate after the mayor and the two mayors and two city managers got together to discuss the matter. So we followed up by saying that, suggesting to the Council of Governments that we might have an interest in participating in this agreement. That was put to the founding members. They said they welcomed our participation. So this is before you tonight as our basically, they've added us to the proposed agreement. Our cost to participate is $5,000. You can see from the attached job description and strategic plan what the effort would be about. We'll get a better idea once they actually hire someone. This is a brand new position. But it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. We have identified basically a to-be-determined project for our part of Polk County that is in the deliverables. And so, as well as the IGA has been formatted to include both our communities. I don't know whether Monmouth will participate, but regardless, my recommendation to you is that we do so. They will, I believe, be presenting to their council next week.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. How many homeless do we have in Independence?
It's going to be one of the questions that we're going to ask the new body that comes in. Scoping, just even getting a scale of the problem in our community, we really don't have a good grip on them. I mean, we can go to the school district; they probably have, certainly better statistics on their population in need. Their free and reduced lunch program gives them a lot of information. They've got a pretty good handle on the number of couch surfers they have. But, we know from a police perspective, those that rise to their attention, but by and large, the scale of the problem, is really not known to us, any sophistication.
I'm going to add a little bit. I serve on the Council of Governments Board of Directors along with the Mayor of Monmouth. And the efforts to deal with homelessness in the region, Salem Kaiser jumped on along with Marion County. And it's affecting lots of different places. While we're smaller, we do know that that those folks do exist in our community, and this is the first step to find out how many there are, what the needs are, and I think this is a very reasonable first step, and then we can figure out what happens from there. But I think this is I believe it's a 1-year agreement.
It's a 1-year agreement, that's correct.
And the homelessness that we observe, I would, we were talking the other day with someone and said, 9 or 10? And that may be just what's observable, but you mentioned the school system, and I know that there are a lot of students who would be under the definition considered homeless.
Absolutely.
Superintendent, I don't know if you happen to know off the top, if you have any, and you could say you don't know, and that's perfectly okay. Do you have any insight?
This afternoon, I just looked at our...
Come up, because that was TV will pick you up.
This afternoon, just off of, and I did pull last year's number, so I just quickly was looking at this morning at the high school, and right now, so please know we're only a week into school, there were already 12 documented in our system. So again, we just started that process, that every year we do that process within our communities, both at the middle school and high school. At times you do fall into the elementary, again, because I'm new, I'm starting to learn some of those pieces, but I did actually look at that this evening to just get an idea, and that was what was in there. So again, I will be able to work as we do this, because I'm sure we easily can show our 3 to 5 year trend over the last years of how many we have shown as documented as homeless.
Thank you.
Based on our regulations.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your willingness to step up unannounced here. Just additional questions for staff? If not, this is an action item.
And I'd be happy to take that.
Please do.
I move to approve the form of IGA substantially as provided to the council, and to authorize the city manager to execute on behalf of the city.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Just a quick question. So then we'll go through this process a year from now, approximately, about whether we want to continue this. Is that how that's going to work? After a preliminary report.
We probably can, sure. This is before you because it's an intergovernmental agreement, not because of the dollar amount. The dollar amount is well within my threshold, right? But I assume that we will be back.
I would love to hear what they come up with.
We'll certainly will. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Additional comments? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're going to do, let's do council announcements now. I think you had a council announcement.
Yes, but I have a question first, if I could.
Sure.
Can we get a report on what kind of franchise fees we're receiving right now from the various agencies and companies that feed into that? Please?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I understand. Are you looking for just a revenue report? Are you looking for who pays what?
I'm looking for who pays what.
We can certainly report back on that.
Thank you. And yes, I have an announcement.
Okay.
We have a weekend coming up that would have traditionally been the Hop Festival weekend. And at our board meeting for the Downtown Association today, Sean proposed again that we have a hop themed weekend. It will start with the Ghost Walk. It will end with the murder mystery dinner, that being Friday and Monday. But during the weekend, we're encouraging merchants to have anything available that has a flavor or a theme of hops to it and promote that during the weekend. You should see the same kind of decoration of hops that you have seen during the festival. And it'll keep us in the spirit of that until the festival returns next year.
Additional comments, additional announcements? Okay, what I'd like to do is adjourn this meeting, and then we'll open the urban renewal meeting and move forward from there. Is that okay with everybody? Somebody move to adjourn? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, motion carries. And now call to order the Urban Renewal Agency. Let the record show that everybody is here and present. There are minutes from June 27th in your packet. Do they meet with your approval? Somebody say yes. Yes. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
And this
thank you.
is a second.
Oh, thank you. Huber's motion, Huber's second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. We're going to go into executive session, and then we'll come back out and execute any action.